into NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing as we roll right on through the early part of August. My name is Chris Wilner here from the Concord, North Carolina studios, MRN HQ. And as always, my cohort, Mr. Kyle Rickey out there in Killingly, Connecticut. Although, are you at Stafford today or are you at home?
No, I'm at the K-Rick HQ
K-Rick
here
HQ.
in Killingly.
That's right. It is a big deal if you ever can go visit the K-Rick HQ. You had a busy weekend out at Stafford. Speaking of Stafford, the big SK 5K. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but boy, how exciting is it to, we talk about Spring Sizzler and some of the big marquee events out there, but for the SKs, I mean, this is the creme de la creme all year long.
And that's why over 30 race cars showed up to participate in the event. Some of the best SK modified drivers in the region were there, as they are every week. But it seemed like there were more of them this past Friday night. Great event, good crowd. The only thing that we could have used a little bit less of is the temperature. Temperatures were approaching about 100 degrees all day. It's been a hot week up here, as it has been most of the country. So
yeah.
It's August. It's the middle of summer. You get that. And fortunately, it stayed dry. There were a lot of pop-up showers around us, but got the whole event in. It was a wild one. New winner, but overall a very good night for the SK Modifieds at Stafford.
Awesome. Good to hear. And yeah, that heat wave just seems to be affecting everybody. And you know what? Like you said, it's August. I mean, it is what it is. So embrace it and enjoy it, and it'll be over soon, we hope. We got a great show for you guys. We got Nick Sanchez coming up, who is the new ARCA Menard Series point leader, courtesy of his third win of the year out at Michigan this past weekend. A busy guy. He's actually here going to join us from his gym, so maybe interesting. Maybe we can get him to do some push-ups or something like that. But Nick Sanchez is going to come up in segment number 2. But of course, Kyle, like we start every show, we like to celebrate our coast-to-coast top 7 winners of the week. And why don't we go ahead and start with our ARCA Menard Series points leader, Nick Sanchez, picking up that win at Michigan. And boy, it was all about defensive driving, wasn't it? What a win for Nick, and certainly a good opportunity for him and the Rev Racing organization to get back on track. I know it's been a difficult 4 weeks or so.
Yeah, his third win of the season. He led most of the event, but had some heavy pressure from Sammy Smith at one point midway through the race. And on the last lap, Corey Hine made a run at Nick, but was unable to make the pass. And Corey was able to take down the win. First time we've seen him in victory lane in quite a few months. He got a couple of wins early in the season. Pretty quiet here the last 2 or 3 months, and back in victory lane and back in the points lead as well for the ARCA Menard Series.
That's right. We'll talk to Nick about that 7-point lead over Raja Caruth coming up in segment number 2. Kyle, our coast-to-coast winner number 2. It's one of our favorite series to cover, and it was north of the border once again this past weekend.
Yeah, Alex Gannett picking up the race win, and his first in the NASCAR Pinty Series. They were racing on the streets of Three Rivers. Wild race with JF Dumoulin and LP getting together. Also, the former points leader, Marc-Antoine Camerand, top 3 in the race, coming to the white flag, all crashed. Alex was able to sneak by and claim the win, running part-time in the NASCAR Pinty Series, running only the street and road courses, but was in the right place at the right time to score the win.
Yeah, something out of a video game almost. You always like to be the guy that can capitalize on the leader's record. We even saw that in the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour earlier this year, too, so pretty good stuff. All right, my Coast to Coast top 3, number 3 winner. I'm going to go with Connor Hall, who won the second half of the Cars Tour Throwback 276 weekend out at Hickory Motor Speedway. Again, William Swalich won the Pro Late Model 2 weeks ago now, but due to rain, they couldn't get the late model stock event in, so Connor Hall took it to him in the throwback scheme, holding off William Swalich as well. What a big race for him. Connor Hall, one of the up-and-coming late model drivers, a big win out at Hickory, the home of the NASCAR Stars here in North Carolina, so a pretty good win for him. Caden Honeycutt, Carson Quapple in the top 3 as well. All right, Coast to Coast winner number 4, Kyle, who we got this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Burt Myers. First win of the season, hard to believe, out at Bowman Gray Stadium. Started in the 5th spot, quickly made his way to the front in a power move pass in the outside lane. You don't see that much at Bowman Gray these days since the repave. On Tim Brown, the former race leader, won the Great Clips 100 on Saturday night. So hard to believe that we are into the month of August, and Burt is just now getting the victory lane at the stadium, but He did it this Saturday night in dramatic style. Great race for the modifieds, and they're back in action this Saturday night.
Always good whenever Tim and Burt can get after it at Bowman Gray. It certainly got the crowd there excited as well. Awesome stuff. Well, I'm surprised your number 4 wasn't what my number 5 is, and that is Marcelo Rufranco. Am I saying that correctly?
Oh, God. Marcello
Refrano. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
A for effort. First career Stafford SK win, and it comes in that big 5K event that Kyle mentioned at the top of the show. What a race. I mean, kind of trying to follow along a little bit this year. It feels like he's been close about maybe 5-6 times this year, and just something's happened, but it finally put together a complete night, getting his first career SK Modified win, 68th start at the racetrack. And I think you guys have had almost the amount of different winners as you've had races there in the SKs, haven't you?
Yeah, 10 different winners in, I believe, 15 events. Just a couple of repeat winners this year. Stephen Kopchik, a repeat winner, along with David Arute. But other than that, everybody else in the single victory column, as far as those other 8 are concerned, a wild race. Marcello, you're right, been close so many times, finished second the week prior, took control of the race early, a lot of chaos behind him, had pretty big incident involving Dan Wesson and Stephen Kopchik.
Yeah, I heard there was a fight. Were you able to get a front row seat for that?
You heard right. There was. And, it's never a good thing. I said this on the PA Friday night. It's never a good thing when the pit crews become involved and storm the racetrack like they did. And the racetrack came out with a laundry list of penalties. I think one of our officials said it looks like a CVS receipt of the penalty list. I think 19 folks have been suspended from the racetrack for the next couple of weeks. Wow. So, it was technically it was a hot racetrack, yeah, we were under caution, but there were still cars going around, and everybody felt like they needed to go be a part of what could have been just 2 drivers. Well, so
in the name of safety, that's exactly, rules are rules, and certainly interesting. All right, we're going to do coast to coast number 6. Kyle, who do you have on your list?
I have Matt Hirschman from last week at North Wilkesboro. Last week when we aired the first edition, or the last week's edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast, race number 2 had not been run yet. Ryan Newman won the opening night for the Tour Modifieds at the North Wilkesboro Speedway, part of their revival. For a second. But night number 2, Matt Hirschman was able to claim the win. A great field of modifieds, and we talked about it last week. The crowd at North Wilkesboro that supported that event was amazing. Both nights, hopefully that keeps up when the rest of the events happen there later this month with the Cars Tour and some of the other support divisions that'll be there.
Yeah, we're just getting started at North Wilkesboro. Super excited for what's to come over the next couple weeks, and then obviously rounding out August with Cars Tour, and then we start to tear it up and bring the dirt for October. So it should be a lot of fun. All right, we're going to wrap up our Coast to Coast top 7 with my number 7. And I'm going to go with Evan Shotko winning the 5th annual Motor Mountain Masters out at Jennerstown, one of the iconic racetracks across North America. Current reigning now winner of the Advance My Track Advance Auto Parts $50,000 this year. Got the lead just when he needed to because rain hit the racetrack and they called the race just short. And he beat a star-studded field out there at Jennerstown. So congratulations to Evan Shotko. All right, Kyle, do you have a couple shout-outs for this week? Maybe some honorable mentions that we couldn't get to?
I do have one. Dana DiMatteo winning the Monaco Tri-Track Modified Race, the New London Waterford Speed Bowl, one of the biggest events that racetrack has seen in 5 years. The fans poured in all day on Saturday, even with the 95-degree heat. Parking lot was full by 4 o'clock. Stands were full by 5:30. 44 modifieds tried to make the event. 30 started. A field that included the likes of Ryan Preece and Matt Hirschman and Mike Christopher Jr., but it was the local favorite, Dana DiMatteo, picking up the race win in a dramatic fashion, a near photo finish at the line and a green-white checkered finish. So a great run and a great event for that racetrack. It kind of made me sit there and think that, short track racing alive and very well, not just across the country, but especially here in Connecticut for a racetrack that really hasn't seen a major event since 2017.
Absolutely. And speaking of short trackers doing well, I've got two, but my first quick one is the podium sweep by Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway racers Brent Cruz, Connor Mozak, and going into the Hall of Fame, Scott Porchetta all finished top three at the Music City GP as part of a Trans Am race. So these guys that typically are used to the late models are going left and right out of Music City, and they got it done sweeping the victory podium there, part of IndyCar weekend. So I thought that was pretty cool on a little bit more of an elevated national stage. And my other shout out, Nicholas Noggle out of Nova Scotia picked up his first ever JEGS CRA All-Star Tour win at Anderson. But only reason why I picked it, well, besides the fact it was his first career win, so congratulations, but it came in the Fudge Packer 100 presented by Uranus Fudge Factory. If that is not the coolest race name ever, I don't know what else is.
It'll get your attention.
It certainly will. Congratulations to Nicholas Noggle. All right, well, Nick Sanchez is on the line, so coming up after the break, we're going to visit with the driver who finished first at Michigan and captured the points lead in the ARCA Menard Series. He's on the other side of the break. When we come back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing. NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing. On the line, joining us from what looks like the gym is Mr. Nick Sanchez, Rev Racing driver and now current points leader of the ARCA Menard Series. Nick, after this big win at Michigan International Speedway this past weekend, congratulations. Boy, that was a good one, considering how the last couple races had went. You probably feel like you got the weight lifted off your shoulders getting back to victory lane for the third time this year.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And yeah, Michigan, I feel like we lost probably in the last 3 or 4 races. We lost at least 2 of them, Mid-Ohio and Pocono. So I had that in my mind. You know, you hate to lose them when you have what you think is a dominant car. But it felt good to kind of win one without the dominant car at Michigan. So, yeah, it is a big confidence booster. The big tracks definitely suit my team. And it seems like we're just trying to capitalize on them.
And a fantastic race on Saturday evening for you and your Rev Racing team at Michigan. But bring me through the last lap, because Corey made a run at you there in turn 1 just after taking the white flag. I mean, how much of that, at least that half of the last lap, were you watching the mirror?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the mirror pretty much, I would say, from lap 35 onward. I feel like right there at that moment, I kind of knew I had it. Corey, I could kind of tell when he got a really good run because he pulled in my left rear pretty much at that moment. Luckily, he wasn't able to get there before the corner, so he wasn't really able to drag me back. He took the bottom, and he was on my inside, but I knew I was going to have the momentum up top to where we got to the exit. I was going to be able to cross his wake and take his nose away, take his arrow away on exit. So that was kind of like my attack. And then obviously off of 2, they just did not have enough time to generate a run. So that was kind of it. Luckily for me, it did not go into turns 3 or 4 because we were definitely stronger in 1 and 2.
And then you had that last restart. Daniel Dye, who's somebody you're competing, for the championship with, gives you that big old push down the front straightaway. Was that the difference? Because I feel like, a place like Michigan, it's almost, you kind of race it almost like a super speedway. So how big was that on that final restart?
Yeah, obviously on those restarts, it doesn't really matter what the front 2 do. It matters the rows behind you. Are they organized? Are they giving a good push? And luckily, the 43 gave me a very, very good push. And, that kind of helped me, get out front. Without that, it was going to take probably a good push off of 2 from someone else to catapult me in front of Corey. Never say never. It probably could have happened without that push. But it is definitely easier once you get it off the initial go. And luckily, I had someone good pushing behind me.
Did the track change much during the day between practice and the race? Obviously, the support race, the Xfinity Series, was run right before you guys, which ran in the evening. Did you notice much of difference when the race came around from practice earlier in the day?
I don't want to say it got. I really don't want to say it got cooler, maybe by a couple degrees, but it got a lot more shady. So I guess you could say maybe air temp was about the same. But, track temp with the sun got a little bit cooler, especially, in the front straightaway, exit of 4 and entry into 1. So, as the race went on, you kind of got more and more grip. And, that's why you saw I guess maybe the pack racing that you did. If you had the more dominant car, it was kind of taken away with just the natural grip, kind of like at the end of the race at Pocono. My advantage in the tunnel turn went away as the sun went down. And I feel like that same thing kind of came into Michigan, and it just got faster.
Not to step aside, Nick, but I know you're a grown guy. That beeping noise means you need a couple batteries for your smoke alarm there. So
Yeah.
just want to let you know that's what that signal means. But all joking aside, how much has your experience, over the last year and a half, 2 years in the ARCA Menard series, especially when it comes to tracks like Talladega where you've won before, kind of play into that mindset when you're in those late race situations at Michigan? Because, I mean, the breaking the draft in itself is pretty crazy when we see you guys weaving like snakes down the front straightaway and back straightaway. So how much does that defensive mindset, with your experience kind of help you there in those situations?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to, really 2021, racing guys like Ty on restarts, that he does all those things. That's kind of where I learned it from. He breaks the draft, he side drafts, he's very defensive, he's very calculated. And, racing against him many times in those late race restarts, I had to, learn some of those habits and learn some of those tactics he used. And, I still implement it today. And I feel like, that's why he's as good as he is. But it is very important because, the ARCA car is high downforce, low power. So usually on restarts, you can run the first set of corners wide open. And it's all about, who gets to push, who pulls the other car back. And it's a game of leapfrog. And, there's a racecraft to it. And you have to be mindful on when you decide to pull someone back. Is it too early? Are they going to get to your quarter again? What does the push from behind look like? Do they have help? So all those little things that play into, the decision making process on the restarts. And obviously I think my team as a whole, we brought more speed to the big tracks. I wouldn't consider myself better at a mile and a half than a half mile or a short track. But I feel like for some reason our packages there with the cars we bring, we seem to always have some sort of speed to be in contention. So, I know going to those races, those are the races I'm going to make up points on my competitors.
Chris mentioned at the top of the interview, you are the point leader now by 7 over Rajah. How much do you look at points at this stage of the season?
I feel like you always look at points just because, you have to. But I know looking at our point situation, like I'm not saying, in the past 12 races throughout the season, we've maximized our points. We've probably lost 30, 35 points just on, mistakes, things, mechanical issues, things to go wrong, bad calls. So I know our deficit isn't because, we're going out executing every race perfectly. We've got some work to do. And in some ways that's more motivating because, if you hit on all cylinders, you do not have to look at points. And I feel like after Michigan, now we have kind of a points gap. I'm in the lead. And honestly, I just want to focus on winning every race from here on out. And I feel like when you do that, you don't have to look at points.
Kyle mentioned Rajah, your teammate. Obviously, you guys basically almost paralleling in terms of your trajectory with your careers kind of coming up at the same time, both young guys. What's the relationship like as you two kind of begin to learn and navigate and start to excel, as we get to the upper echelons of this sport? I know kind of early on this season, there was a couple times you guys got together a little bit, but what's been, your relationship is, especially now, neck and neck here in the championship fight?
Yeah, me and him, we're going to compete harder than anyone else on the track. We're teammates, so we always want to beat each other. And like I was explaining to someone the other day, it's hard, when you race him because he's your teammate. When we're fast, when we're winning speed, it's usually me and him up front. When we're slow, it's usually me and him in the back. So you could only gain, 1 point at a time, 2 points at a time because we're always so close. Our cars are so close together. But yeah, he's a great friend. I lean on him a lot. He leans on me a lot. We obviously in practice and qualifying, we have the common goal of making our rev racing Chevrolets faster. We're really open with each other on the info we give, and our teams are, we almost operate as one team in essence. And yeah, moving up the ranks with him, he's more focused, I guess, on the truck side. I'm more focused on the Xfinity side, which is in some ways a good thing. We could both go our separate ways and try to have success in our series. But yeah, we compete very hard and we have mutual respect for each other.
Yeah, to bounce off of that, what are the team meetings like between you two running, for a championship while also racing each other, on the racetrack?
Yeah, we don't have too many meetings in, our racing aspect. We know I think we're smart enough to know if we do something that, if we wreck our teammate, if we do something to inhibit the other car, we know the consequences. So we try not to go there. And I feel like we've done a really good job this year at not going there. But, if he's racing me hard, I'm not going to complain. And, he's the same way. We know when to pull over for one another and when to, race hard for a win. And we just, on restarts, we try to work together as much as possible. But we compete very hard.
You mentioned the Xfinity, pursuits that you're having in your career, Raja, kind of a little bit truck, a little bit Xfinity. How tough is that? As a race car driver, you're always constantly thinking of the future. What's next? I mean, kind of like us in broadcasting a little bit sometimes too. So how hard is that when you're in this championship fight, when you're peaking at the right time, like you said, kind of in Michigan, but at the same time, you're kind of venturing out and trying to get these experiences and these rides, on the Xfinity level and learn from that. Is it tough trying to balance the business side, trying to get yourself to the next level with also focusing on, the task at hand in the ARCA Menard series?
I guess you could say at times it is. I try to have like a switch between the two, and I'm gonna have to use that switch in Bristol. But I know ARCA, it's going to be very important for my resume to have a championship, and I want to get as many wins as possible for the company, for Rev Racing, Chevy, and Gainbridge. But I also know that the part in my career where I'm gonna turn the most heads is in the Xfinity series. Running up front. I know that I'm gonna obviously try to keep winning in ARCA, trying to keep collecting trophies there. But I need to do the same in Xfinity to get that same respect level from the industry as a whole. So I know those 4 races at Big Machine are going to be the biggest of my career, and Bristol, I'll race Thursday night in the ARCA car, Friday night in the Xfinity car, and as soon as I leave Thursday night, flip a switch, no matter how the night went, and I'm onto the Xfinity series duty that weekend, and just gotta focus 100% in both series at the same time.
My final question for you is looking to the future, at least with the ARCA Menard series schedule. We have a road course coming up in Watkins Glen, a couple of dirt tracks, some of the fastest short tracks in the country in Salem and Bristol, as you mentioned, Toledo. What are you looking forward to? What kind of stands out of the races that are left? Because it's a very diverse schedule even from here on out.
I'm looking forward to all of them. Our short track program's been off this year, but I know they're working hard to fix that. Maybe changing some things with the cars, some new cars here and there. So I'm really looking forward to those tracks. I want to do good there. I do not like running bad at the short tracks. I love them. So, but I guess in more recent races coming up, Watkins Glen, I feel like Mid Ohio we should have won. We had winning speed from the first lap, and we just didn't capitalize. Didn't go our way. So Watkins Glen, I just want to get that. I love road racing, and I believe it's very important in today's landscape, in the sport, to be good at road racing, because our sport's going there 6-7 races in the Cup Series and road courses. It's an important trait to have. It's an important trait to show as a driver, composure on those. Dirt race, which is kind of it is what it is. Haven't really raced on dirt, but probably going to drive like an asphalt track, and then we go to the short tracks, mile and a half. So a really cool schedule to end off the year. We're not sticking to a certain style of track. So it'll be good, and it'll offer for some good battles.
So going off of that, how do you prepare as a young up and coming driver? Obviously, iRacing, I know you've been on it. I've seen you on there running different leagues and kind of stuff like that. But how do you get that experience? Especially like you said, when we go to these dirt tracks, you have little to no experience. I know some venture off to Millbridge Speedway up here in North Carolina to try to drive a micro just to get some dirt experience. But what kind of preparations are you trying just to hone your craft before we tackle some of these different disciplines?
I feel like just kind of your notebook. Luckily I've driven a lot of these tracks or tracks like them over the past year and a half. So I have my own notebook, and now when I go to study, someone tells me, this is how you drive Bristol. I might take 50% of that and ask someone else and take the other 50 and come up with my own way of driving it. So I have a notebook as a driver. Even for the tracks I haven't been to, I have tracks I can relate them to. So I just try to, do the best and pick and choose what data points I take into my weekend, and, prepare the best I can. A lot of sim stuff for Chevy on the tracks that have that map A lot of film, a lot of physical training, a little bit of everything, but just try to, use every resource I have available.
Well, speaking of physical training, you're at the gym. What are we thinking? You gonna bench press? What are we bench pressing these days here?
I don't know. It depends the day. It depends. It depends how strong the coffee is in the morning. But
Yes.
I try to change it up a little bit.
Awesome stuff. Well, we'll let you get back to it. Appreciate your time and congratulations on the big win out at Michigan. And we can't wait to see what happens the rest of the year. Should be a really good championship battle here to the end.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
That's Nick Sanchez, driver of the Rev Racing Chevrolet, points leader in the ARCA Menard Series after the big win at Michigan. We're coming back next with the calendar as we wrap up NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing. NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing. Just hearing from Nick Sanchez. Kyle, one of the nicest guys in the ARCA Menard Series garage. Certainly a lot of talent. And like you mentioned, him and Raja, I think it's going to be a really cool, interesting battle, especially as we go, 8 races to go in the season. And we're all kinds of different places, whether it's Watkins Glen or DeCoin when we get to the dirt track. So I'm certainly excited to see what happens with this championship.
Yeah, the title going to be decided at Toledo on the short track for the first time in a while. The last several seasons, I believe it has been crowned at the Kansas Speedway. So a lot of great races left. And don't cut out like guys like Daniel Dye. It's not just between Nick and Raja. Daniel Dye is not too far out of the picture. So this could be a 3-way battle. It'll also be fun to watch Nick and Raja, like Nick alluded to, go off into their NASCAR National Series, whether it be trucks for Raja or the Xfinity Series for Nick. It would be fun to watch them here at the Bristol Motor Speedway next month, compete double duty in both the ARCA Menard Series and the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
All right, before we get to our Go with the Flow race weekend calendar, which is once again stacked as always as we sit here in the early part of August, a little go or no-go segment, and the one topic this week is pretty relevant considering we just had a couple of them, and we've got another one this week with the battle at Berlin. Midweek races on the grassroots level, Kyle. I'm a little bit mixed on this one. Where are we at? Go or no-go for having midweek races here on the calendar in 2022?
I'm go. It seems to work. You mentioned Battle at Berlin, Jeff Streakel and his folks at the Berlin Raceway. I have been famous the last couple of years in promoting big midweek Wednesday night or Thursday night events. Another one this week and another successful event. Next week, Thompson Speedway will run the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour on a Wednesday night. The NASCAR Pinty Series is running on a Tuesday night next week. Seems to be working. It breaks the week up. I get people have to work. Also feel like people might be, less of them are working, at least, in the traditional sense, like we saw a decade or so ago. So, I feel like midweek races this time of year are perfect for short tracks to find success.
See, I'm probably going to make some people mad, but Kyle, I'm going to go no.
Really?
And it's a rarity that we've disagreed, as our producer Craig Moore just alluded to us here as we started the show. But, it's one of those things where on the grassroots level, I think it's a little bit different than trying to do it on the national level. And because, like you primarily mentioned, a lot of these race teams have employees that have full-time jobs. A lot of these drivers have full-time jobs. What if it rains? I understand from a publicity standpoint because guess what? Who else, especially with races like on Flow Racing right now that you can turn it on Monday like I did and watch the Front Row Challenge at Oskaloosa. Guess what? Nobody else is racing on a Monday, so that's where everybody's tuned in at. But it puts a lot of pressure on these racetracks to not only get their show in, but get it done at a reasonable hour. I know there are some tracks that struggle with curfew issues, like getting out at midnight on a weeknight or a weekend. What happens if that's a weeknight? Midnight is really late, and folks are going to get, really pressured into leaving early and missing some of the action. So while, yes, I love the idea, I feel like at the lower levels, it's a lot harder to maintain that. Sure, it's great for North Wilkesboro because it's a revival. It's a lot of excitement, and people definitely took the time out of their schedules or off work to go do that. But I think on a traditional, consistent basis, it's very hard to sustain that. So I'm going to go no on the long run, but yes for those promoters that take the chance. and it works out. So we'll leave it at
If
that.
you can't get your fans out before midnight, you got bigger problems.
Correct. Yes, and that is not when you're running the race. That is a operational standpoint, which is a whole nother topic. But there are some that are out there, not ones that I've been to lately, but I know there have been some out there that have that issue. So it'll be something to keep an eye on. Especially, it seems to be a growing trend too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens either later this year or obviously when all the schedules come out for next season. All right. Final order of business here on NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing is, of course, the Flow Racing calendar with a ton of action going on. Although we don't have ARC Menard Series action or the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, Kyle, we do have the Pinty Series back at Ohsweken Speedway coming up.
Yeah, in Ontario, 4 races to go for the NASCAR Pinty Series. DJ Kennington, the point leader now by 3 after that wild race a week ago that took out Marc-Antoine Cameron in the penultimate lap of the race. Cameron now back to second in points. Kevin Lacroix third in points, 16 back. Love Ohsweken Speedway. That'll be on Tuesday night, August 16th. The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour has a race the following night, August 17th at the Thompson Speedway, the Phoenix Communications 150. Ronnie Selk, the championship point leader by a whopping 4 points over John McKennedy as that tour enters the second half of their season. That will also be live. Both of those events will be live on Flow Racing.
Yeah, again, this goes back to the midweek race schedules. Look, we got a Tuesday and Wednesday night with National Series from the Pinties and the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. So pretty cool stuff coming up. And, of course, we will recap those on the show next week. All right, ARCA and CRA Super Series, as well as the Southern Super Series, kind of doing a conjoined master event at North Wilkesboro Speedway to continue on the racetrack revival month of August. 30-plus cars are already entered, and I'm expecting a few more to trickle in before this weekend's a doubleheader on Friday and Saturday out at North Wilkesboro. Bubba Pollard has entered, Jet Nolan, Hunter Robinson, Albert Francis, Billy Van Meter. So those are some of the CRA guys from Indiana that are coming over, as well as the Southern Super Series stars. So kind of a conjoined effort, and I think it's going to be really cool to finally see some really good late model racing. You know, we have the awesome doubleheader with the tour type mods and some of the support series, so really excited for that event coming up on Friday and Saturday. Kyle, what else you got on your calendar?
Yeah, Twin 50s this weekend for the Modifieds, Bowman Gray Stadium. They're beginning to wind down their 2022 season. Tim Brown, the current championship leader by 6 over Brandon Ward. Brandon trying to dethrone Tim and Bert as, I guess, the only champions at that racetrack in the last
probably 11
18,
years or
at least. I think it goes back almost 15 years. So I think they've won between the both of them all but one championship over the last 15 or 16 years. So Brandon going to try to break that streak. He'll have a pair of races this Saturday night, also on Flow Racing.
But Bert's got the momentum now that he's snapped that winless streak, so I'm curious to see what he does coming up with the twin races this weekend. On my calendar, Cars Tour, the rescheduled Ace Speedway Pure Year Tank Lines 225 for both the Pro Late Models and Late Model Stocks coming up at Ace Speedway this weekend on Friday, the 12th. And then obviously for the dirt racing world, this is Knoxville Nationals Week. And I know a lot of folks here down in the Charlotte area have already traveled up that direction. Thursday through Saturday, $175,000. Kyle Larson is entered, as well as all the top stars for the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the ASCS Tour, and the All-Stars. So pretty cool stuff to check that out this weekend. But of course, Kyle, on Flow Racing, there's probably 100 other events going on, and it starts Thursday with Thunder Road, but obviously Stafford's on Friday.
Yeah, regular show on Friday night with the SK Modifieds, the late models, the SK Lights, the street stocks, the limited late models. Going to be a great night of racing. Hopefully the weather holds up. It looks good right now. A lot of racing up here in New England. I mentioned Thompson next Tuesday and Wednesday. They're going to have a regular show on Tuesday night. Wednesday, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Seekonk Speedway's back in action in Massachusetts this weekend. On Saturday night for their race program. And on Sunday for monster trucks.
Yes, a monster truck event. I am so excited. I love monster trucks. It takes me back to my childhood. Meridian Evergreen also underway as well. We mentioned Hickory, Berlin, so a lot of going on. And actually, Berlin has the 500 Sprint Car Tour, so if you love open wheel stuff, that'll be fun to watch on Flow Racing on Saturday. All right, well, that wraps us up here for NASCAR Coast to Coast. Kyle, enjoy this weekend at Stafford. I know you're not traveling anywhere on the national schedule. I actually have a weekend off, so I'm going to enjoy all the short track racing from the comfy confines of my house watching Flow Racing as I finalize my wedding plans coming up at the end of August. So I gotta get on that.
Coming quick.
It is. For Craig Moore, producer, Kyle Rickey, I'm Chris Wilner. Thank you so much all for tuning in to NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing. Enjoy your weekend of all kinds of short track action. And of course, we'll recap it all next week.